Welcome to See Blissfully Lit. I'm your host, Sammy White, and it's an absolute pleasure to have our guest, James Treadway, here today. James is the founder of GrowthWise. This is an amazing company that is teaching social skills for life across all ages and really making a path of change in the lives of so many people. We are thrilled to have you on this podcast, sharing bits of magic and authenticity. James, could you start by telling us, our listeners, a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Let's see, I'm 40 years old. I grew up in Scarsdale, New York, the suburbs outside New York City. It's a pretty wealthy town. My parents worked really hard to be able to live in a town like that. And I would say we were religious fundamentalists. I would say the religion was hard work and money. And I like to say we might as well have prayed in the direction of the Ivy League and Wall Street 5 times a day. My family would probably be furious to hear me describe them that way. I got into Harvard and worked so hard to get there. I run a tutoring company now, and I would say my parents were more skilled and strategic and energetic about getting their kids in the best school possible than any family I've ever come across. They were major league. So one of my brothers went to Harvard as well. The other one went to Cornell. They got better at the process with each kid. I'm the youngest. And then I got to Harvard full of achievements and absent of self-love or self-esteem or peace. Took a year off halfway through. Couldn't do school anymore. I read a book that said I had all this chronic pain in my hands the first 2 years of college. It got so bad it would hurt to put on a t-shirt in the morning. And the book I read is by John Sarno. He was this NYU back doctor. And it's called The Mindbody Prescription. And he said most chronic pain is caused by repressed emotions. And that the people most likely to get this were perfectionists and goodists, people always trying to be a good person. I was like, yeah, I'm about a 14 out of 10 on both. So I knew it was me. Immediately, it was 3 weeks into junior year. I immediately took a year off from school. And it dawned on me that anything that feels light and open in my body is what's true for me. And anything that feels tight, heavy, and closed is what's not true for me. So what if I run an experiment of just listening to these binary signals and following what feels light and open in my body and follow my truth? Sammy, you still got me?
Yeah. You froze for a moment, but I could still hear you.
Okay. And so, oh, okay, so you heard the voice, just the visual froze.
Mm-hmm. So you were following
I move
those
closer to the
natural
house.
pings in your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And um, so I was like, let me try that as an experiment. That makes a lot of sense. Sorry about that. And so I started to do it, and then 20 years later, I was 20 then, I'm 40 now. I'm still running that experiment to just follow what feels light and open in my body. And my life got so interesting once I started to do that. And it got so meaningful. And I'd already suffered from a lot of insecurity and a lot of alienated relationships. So painful. And I started to make my first good friendships, and suddenly I had my first girlfriend. Um, Still hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and I started choosing classes that interested me. and started challenging myself in school, and everything started to come online. Um, and so it's 20 years later now, and that's still what's happening. Um, and it reminds me actually of Marie Kondo, you know, the Japanese tidy up lady.
Marie Kondo. I'm not familiar.
Oh my God, hardware. So she's got a show on Netflix called Tidying Up. She's this tiny little Japanese lady, and her method is it's the spark joy method. So you basically every item in your house that you're considering keeping or discarding, you put it in your hands and you hold it in your hands with kind of light cupped hands, and you just feel if it if you feel a spark of joy energy in your body when you hold it.
Okay.
Um, and if it sparks joy, you keep it. And if it doesn't, you thank it for what it's done in your life. And that allows you to part ways with it. So her process is exactly what dawned on me when I read that book in college. Um, and Funnily enough, our mutual friend Crystal is the only other person I know who makes her decisions in life this way.
Yes.
Um, yeah. And actually, her hearing me talk about it, I think inspired her to do it more.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and that just at 20 years old, that just kicked off now a 20-year and going journey of self-healing and self-discovery, um, and really a path to authenticity, what your podcast is about. And it was
Yes.
giving up all the conditioning, my family, giving up all the pressure and judgment, which was designed to drive you to hard work and money. And so in my 20s, I got in touch with a lot of repressed rage and sadness, and I stopped being a good little perfect nice boy and started screaming back at my family. If I sensed for a moment they were pressuring or judging me, they would hear it. And I think I became terrifying to them. I didn't do it with grace or ease or love. I did it with anger. And they became scared of me. They stopped judging and pressuring me to my face, at least. Um, and so then I was free to really go my own way. And I'd say in my 30s, I started to learn how to bring love back into the picture and how to make them feel seen and heard, how to acknowledge them and meet them where they're at, the way I always wish they had done with me. Um, and yeah, I'm in a really beautiful place with my family now. There's still more to go. Um, I do work that I absolutely love and I'm so passionate about. I don't do anything I don't want to do ever. All day long, I just listen to the energy and I follow it. Um, and I surrender to it. And I think energy is speaking to us every moment through the language of sensation, of opening and lightness, which is calling you forward, versus tightness and heaviness, and closing, which is telling you not to go down that road. And I think that is the Holy Spirit that Jesus is talking about. It's the Tao that Lao Tzu is talking about. Um, and are you familiar with Michael Singer?
I am not familiar with Michael Singer.
He wrote The Surrender Experiment and The Untethered Soul. He's like an awakened living being. He's outside Gainesville, Florida, super famous. And, you know, it's the same thing. And what they're calling you to do is to notice where your ego with its preferences, probably rooted in your fears and your past experiences, is trying to control or navigate life. And the point they're calling you to open up to is let the Holy Spirit guide your life. It's a force of infinite power, brilliance, and love, so far beyond what your limited mind can come up with. And as I just keep learning to surrender and let go and let Holy Spirit guide my choices, my life gets so brilliant, so powerful, and so loving. And I realized, this monologue's almost finished. I realized about a year and a half ago I used to go by Jim. James is on my birth certificate, but my family always called me Jim. And I would always meet women who really preferred the name James. Like, why are you called Jim? But whatever, I was stubborn. But a year and a half ago, I just had this dawning and awakening of like, I'm going to follow the Holy Spirit no matter what. And I looked at the meaning of James. It says follower. Actually means following at the heels of God, which to me sounds like following the Holy Spirit. My last name is Treadway. You tread the way, you lead the way. It's like, oh my God, my name my whole life has meant following at the heels of God and leading the way. Like, oh, that is so perfect. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's really who I feel myself to be. And that was my name this whole time. So I tell everyone to call me James instead of Jim now. Jim felt like it was this curtailment, this like trying to shave off the square corners so we could fit into the round hole of who my family wanted me to be. And James is like, no, I'm following Holy Spirit. I don't care what family or anyone says. No matter what, I'll follow Holy Spirit and lead the way as I do so. And have you ever changed your name?
I have not personally changed my name, but
You met-
my name is technically Samantha, and I prefer to go by Sammy.
When did you start going by Sammy?
When I was a child,
Hmm. So you know when you meet people who change their name,
yeah, I've met people who've changed their name.
especially if you hang out in healing communities, you run into them. And
Yeah.
they used to annoy me. And then I became one of them. And so sometimes after you do it, like people are like, some people will call you the new name, some people won't. My family, my ex, her daughter, they will not change to James just yet. But other people who are like so eager to support you in your path will change right to the new name. It's so sweet. Um, and sometimes they call you this name you ask them to call you, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, what? They're talking to me. Shoot, I told them to do that." And I was like, what did I do here? What have I done?" And then I would get all these, be questioning the whole thing, and I get all these signs and synchronicities that were like, "Nope, it's James." And so I volunteer at this teen leadership camp every summer. And last summer, I was telling people this whole story that I'm telling right now about the name change. And I would tell them how all of a sudden I would get this sign that would show up that was like, no, it's James now. And I didn't know that, like, I think there's like at least 38 instances in the Bible of a character having like a totally life-changing experience whereby they now go by a new name. That signals the new chapter of their life. I didn't even know that was a thing. Um, and me and my brothers all have New Testament biblical names um, on purpose from my parents. We were raised Catholic. And then, so I tell this whole story at the teen leadership camp. I'm telling it to a couple people on the side of a field. All the teenagers are on the field playing whatever game. There's 300 kids out there. And then all of a sudden, one of them runs up to me and he hands me this name tag. And he goes, "Here, someone left this." What do you think the name tag said?
Was it James?
James. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Like,
So I have to share something with you, James.
hmm
Um, my given name is Samantha, and
hmm
Samantha means listener.
What?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my God, I didn't know that.
yeah, it means listener.
Wow,
So I've always held that to be true, and I've always held space for people and listened to them and really give people a non-judgmental ear.
I can tell.
Um, and I prefer Sammy because it allows for more authenticity.
Hmm.
But I also don't, if someone calls me Sam, Samantha, or whatever, I don't really care.
hmm
It's kind of non-attached to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I have to tell you, my parents told me that if I was a boy, they would name me James.
Oh.
And I don't know, it just feels so relevant to tell you that.
It really feels it.
Uh,
Careful, because you might talk as much as I do. I just did a whole plant medicine weekend this past weekend, processing all that heartbreak I was telling you about. And I started joking to everybody. I was like, it's really important to find silence and stillness because I need to make sure you're listening. Like, like Really
Yeah.
important. Really important to find silence and stillness because I'm going to be talking and I want to make sure you're listening. So basically, silence for you, talking for me. That was my joke.
Yeah, it's important to have that presence and that awareness
Mm,
so you can really receive the person and
yeah,
hold that space to respond to them
totally.
wholly and let them be seen and heard. I I really recognize that that's something that's so important and missing in a lot of communication nowadays. It's something I discovered when I became friends with our mutual friend Crystal. I, I said, I think the reason that we get along so well is that you actually sit there and you allow me to speak, you receive me, and you
Yeah.
respond accordingly. And I feel
Oh
heard,
man,
I feel seen, and you know,
mm,
I feel like you're actually paying attention. And
she
since
does.
then, I've also been attracting more and more beings into my life like that who, hold that space
Right.
and are ready for that type of a communication.
Yeah. She she listens with such open eyes and so much receptivity and awe. And I literally I co what I used to coach and teach SATs, and I gave that up because now what I coach and teach is how to make others feel seen and heard. I do it through my social skills class, and I also coach parents how to reconnect with their teenagers simply by making them feel seen and heard with I mean it's pretty techniquey actually. It's just tiny little ways of responding to people in conversation, which I learned to do, and it changed my life. Um, so yeah, such a oh man, such an enormous part of life. And I go around now and I do it to people, and I'm watching myself make them feel seen and heard. I'm watching all the things I'm doing, and they love it. And on one hand, it could be like, God, am I manipulating them? Is this just an act? These are just techniques. But it's like, no, it's so lovely just to make them feel so tracked and so seen and heard moment by moment through the conversation. And then everybody's best self comes out. And it's just feels like such a huge key to life.
It is a key to life, and it's a key to transformation and allowing people to be who they really are.
Mm.
I do want to share to our listeners, we're mentioning Crystal Bowie. I interviewed her a couple
But
episodes back. So if
stay
you
away.
refer to that, you can see who we're discussing. James is a mutual
Uh,
friend, and I just wanted to share that with you in case you're wondering who this is. Um, so I'd really like to know,
Mhm.
what messages do you generally try to convey to others who are seeking transformation?
Well, amazing question. Um, so if you're seeking help with anything social, whether it's disconnect with other people, which shows up in social anxiety, or struggle with friendships, struggle with your partner, I work with romantic partners, or your struggle between parents and teens, the same skill I'm teaching all of them is how to make the other feel seen and heard. I also help people with addiction. Um, so if you got a sticky relationship with marijuana or alcohol or whatever it is, social media, um, I show people in just one or two Zooms that this is almost certainly just the product of your nervous system and anxiety. If you tell me you have anxiety, I will tell you you have an addiction, at least one. They go hand in hand. And so when you learn how to regulate your nervous system, and you can do it in 20 seconds, you can move yourself into a calm, grounded, relaxed state and then make the choice to have your addiction or not. Then make the choice to have your coffee or your weed or your alcohol. And you'll find when you do that that you can regulate yourself into that calm and balanced state that you were hoping the substance would do for you. And you'll find yourself easily choosing not to have that substance or that activity 90+% of the time. You still get to have it if you want. but there's no more white knuckling it. And I got totally free of at least a few different addictions of mine through that. And now I can help people with it just in one or two Zooms.
So, what is this process that you're describing?
Are you familiar with the difference between your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system responses?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so your sympathetic nervous system response is when your heart beats faster, your breath gets more shallow. It's basically a stress and anxious response. And maybe the most important part of it all is that the voice in your head becomes critical, fearful, and mean. And when that narrator is speaking, I mean, it is going to destroy your happiness, your optimism, your positivity, your self-love, and your ability to interpret what's happening in your life. Um, and society these days is constantly prodding and poking us into a more sympathetic, stress and anxious response. Parasympathetic is your calm and grounded self. Your heart beats slower. Um, your breath gets fuller and deeper and softer. And the voice in your head becomes honest and compassionate and wise. That voice, when you're in a parasympathetic state, the calm and grounded one, that voice is the truth. In your sympathetic state, with the critical, fearful, mean voice, that voice is 99% untrue and wrong. So when you know these two states, you can spot which one you're in. And you can catch yourself when you start slipping into sympathetic and the critical, fearful, mean voice is starting to take over, and you stop
Mhm.
believing it. And you know, whoa, I heard that voice. I got to regulate myself in the parasympathetic. And so there's a couple ways to do it. Would you like to know the two ways I teach?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you.
Lovely. Let's do it right now. Okay. Um, so the first way is just a light and slow nose breath. So maybe we could do it for like a minute. Maybe our listeners, they'd be so
Okay.
kind and generous as to be listening right now. They can do it with us. You gonna set a timer? I can set it.
Sure, go ahead and set one.
All right, I'll set it. I usually do it for a minute 22. I feel like a minute. Um, so all we're gonna do is breathe as lightly and slowly through our noses as we can. Light and slow. And like extend each inhale and exhale as much as you can. And no pause. Don't like pause between the breaths. Just keep it flowing. Inhale, exhale, light and slow as you can. And we'll do it for a little over a minute, okay? As you do it, by the way, you're gonna feel these subtle sensations of calm and relaxation come up in your body. And that is the sensation of your parasympathetic nervous system coming online. It's your way better self. Your parasympathetic self knows how to be with life. It knows the truth, knows how to flow. So when you feel those calm, light sensations, know that that is your better self coming online. All right, so I'm gonna hit the timer, light and slow as you can through your nose. Ready, set, go. How are you feeling, Sammy?
Mm. Well, I was already fairly relaxed coming into this, and I feel like I could potentially take a nap at this point.
Yeah. Sometimes if there's some underlying fatigue, you might access some deeper tiredness. But so you can do that breath anytime, and you can do it for shorter. 20 seconds will be helpful. And I've done it while I'm driving in the car to a high school where I'm going to give a talk, and the traffic's insane, and I'm not even going to get to stop at that cafe and edit my slides before I get there. I don't even know if I'll show up on time, and I'm just sitting in traffic, breathing as lightly and slowly through my nose as I can. And when I get to the speech, I'm in parasympathetic and I'm so relaxed, people don't even know that they're looking at the draft of my slides, not even the edited version I was planning on doing. And so you can do it anytime, no one even knows you're doing it. I like to do the light and slow nose breath um, during conversations. When you're like about to hit that um, awkward pause where like maybe we're not even sure we have a topic to talk about. You ever run into that? Sammy, you ever have that?
I've been there, yeah.
Right? And
And I
so,
I just
yeah, go
allow
ahead.
that pause to be there.
Smart. So, most people reach for their phone or they come up with some topic that is not even organic or natural. They just need something to talk about because they're so scared of the void of what if we don't have something to talk about. And I always teach do that light and slow nose breath instead. And what's going to happen is about 4 seconds later, from your parasympathetic self, you're going to have a topic come up spontaneously to talk about that will be real and will lead to such a rich, beautiful conversation.
Hmm.
And I did it with my cousin. I was visiting him for Christmas and spent 5 days with him. And by about day three, we kind of hit all our topics. And
Wow.
so we're out to lunch or whatever. And I'm like, oh God, what are we going to talk about now? And
So it can be easier to connect with
yeah,
family
oh,
members.
totally. I mean, totally. Your parasympathetic self is the self of connection. And your sympathetic self is one of disconnection. That's the one who reaches for the weed and wants to bully someone or talk badly or get paranoid about your life. Like it's radical how much our sympathetic, stress and anxious self screws everything up and hurts people. And our parasympathetic self loves, heals, connects, and like shows up in total flow with all of life. Like there's so much at stake here in terms of which nervous system you're in. It's ridiculous. And when you start realizing that, it's like, oh, whatever supports my parasympathetic nervous system, I'm a yes.
Where do you believe that the tendencies of staying in that activated sympathetic
Yeah,
state stem from?
I get a bit conspiratorial about this. Um, I think the school system is designed to alienate us from ourselves and from each other. Um, there's a reason so much of what we study in school is not actually relevant or important to our lives. That I actually think it's by design. It's creating a bunch of heart disconnected, kind of brain dead, alienated, disaffected souls who, in their desperation, will follow along with what they're told to do. It starts there. I think so,
Yeah.
social media and media, and in media, they say if it bleeds, it leads. So yeah, they're trying to grab attention. And yeah, and so they go to what's going to trigger your survival instincts the strongest. And now everybody's pissed off at each other and scared about the next pandemic or war. Um, Definitely from those influences. I don't think it's in leaders. If a leader has any insecurity, it is not in their interest for you to feel secure because you'll see through their bullshit and you won't go along with it. So the more insecure you feel, the more you huddle together, worry about sticking together with the group mind and conforming and following what the established quote unquote leader says. So, and there's also trillion-dollar industries that are built on addiction,
Yes.
right? So whether it's addiction to shopping or makeup or alcohol, food, sugar, um, so holy shit, what an array of forces who all have it in their interest for you to be in a sympathetic nervous system response, consciously or not.
Yeah. Um, you kind of you bring me to this topic that at one point was more of a hot topic for me.
Hmm.
Um, I I believe I shared this in my intro podcast, but
Mm,
I was married to someone who had polysubstance abuse, and
hmm
I dug into a lot of books about that after the fact and
hmm
during
hmm
the fact. And um,
Good for you.
I was wondering why, why when we have all these natural, integrative, holistic approaches, did they push all these medications on people? Medications are super great. They're super great.
Uh,
They can
they are.
stabilize people who have physiological imbalances and they
Yeah.
can help fight off infections. They're super awesome.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why do you push something that so many people don't even know how to handle? They don't know how to stop.
No. The real solution is always emotional and energetic. We've all been pushed into thinking that this Newtonian physics 3D world is the real thing. I think the real thing is the energy. Um, I could worry to you about the wrinkles on my face and does it make me less attractive. But when I show up from an energy of love, it doesn't matter how fucking wrinkled my face looks. I'm going to be attractive. And you can see it in my eyes. And I
Mhm.
just see it over and over. The energy is the real thing. And I think conspiratorially, it is in the interest of some very evil, aware people to get us hooked on the wrong reality.
Yeah.
And I see that, paradigm basically guiding what you're talking about. I don't know. Did I go too far? Does it make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense, and I think we're going in the right direction.
We should just always say that to everyone. No, that makes perfect sense, and I think we're going in the right direction. That's all anyone wants to hear. Can I tell you one more thing?
Yes.
So I have been so blessed to download this process and that I started learning in January. Um, I thought my work was all about how to make others feel seen and heard, and that when we make others feel seen and heard, that's the magic, that's the healing, that's the medicine, relationships work, you know, Holy Spirit can come through and do all its magic. And then I discovered there's a guy in LA called Father Greg Boyle. Have you heard of him?
I have not.
He started something called Homeboy Industries.
Okay.
In the 80s, he was placed in the poorest parish in LA. And I think it's called Dolores Mission. And he's a Jesuit. And he started a school for all the kids in gangs who'd gotten kicked out of their schools. And they were on the streets because they had nowhere to go. So he started a school. And gradually, he ended up starting all these businesses, all under the umbrella of Homeboy Industries. They make t-shirts with silk screening. They do tattoo removal. They do electronic recycling. Um, there's Homegirl Cafe, which is all female ex-cons. I was like totally drawn to go to Homegirl Cafe like 2 years ago, and I didn't know any of the history. I just saw the name in Yelp. I was like, Homegirl Cafe, I gotta go there. Um, yeah, what do they say? It's diner food served to you with love and attitude or something. Um, so
Catchy.
anyway, yeah. Um, Greg Boyle is the most phenomenal embodiment of sort of Jesus example that I've come across in our current time.
Mm.
And he, his first book is called Tattoos on the Heart. I could not put it down. I was crying so hard reading it. I was laughing hysterically. And just started reading like 2 months ago. And since then, I have listened to every interview I could find that he's given. I've watched the Amazon documentary about him. I've read other books about him. I've read his books. I just want to absorb his example. And he goes further than just making people feel seen and heard. He makes them feel cherished.
Mm.
That's the medicine. And so he shows what happens to these ex-convicts and ex-gang members when they are invited into an environment where they will be cherished for who they are. These people come from the hardest childhoods you could imagine. So much neglect, drugs, violence, contempt from society, lack of self-esteem in anyone around. And he loves these kids. And as they feel loved and cherished for who they are by him, they start to feel that way about themselves. So the question when I do the parent coaching to reconnect parents with their teens, once I teach them the skills and techniques of how to make their teen feel seen and heard, which by the way already starts to change the conversations and the vibe and dynamic at home. The stories are as good as I ever could hope. I say, okay, you've learned how to make your kid feel seen and heard, and now I'm going to show you what you're actually here for, because that's not it. You're here to learn how to cherish your kid. That's what your teen most craves, is to feel cherished by you. And what blocks you from cherishing your teen? That's what we're going to look at. Because what blocks you from cherishing your teen are the triggers and wounds that you still have in your heart from your own childhood. If you're feeling annoyed, it's not because of what your teen just did. It's from a root experience that you had in your past that you probably forgot, but it left a mark. Because when you went through whatever pain it was, there was no one around you receiving parenting coaching who knew how to make you feel seen and heard in what you went through. Whether somebody pulled your pants down at school or somebody broke up with you or the teacher was nasty to you, you probably didn't have someone who really made you feel seen and heard in that experience. If you did, it would have healed, but that didn't happen. So you were alone with your pain and you shoved it down, and it lives there as a trigger and a magnet. It's a trigger that makes you hypersensitive to that type of experience happening again, and it's a magnet that actually draws those experiences to you over and over. You know, we all see
Yeah.
it. We all see it in our friends and partners. They keep magnetizing the same fucking experience over and over. So how do you heal those wounds, those triggers? You want to guess?
Uh, I I could guess there's a lot of different approaches to that, honestly. Having
It's
done some myself.
right. It's such a hard question, but can I hear one guess?
One guess.
Sure.
I think a lot of it's in loving yourself.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So, so what I do is I ask someone, and maybe you and I can do one right now.
Sure.
So here's a question. Is there anything you're feeling right now other than a feeling of love? I'm gonna guess right now you are feeling like 96% love, but maybe there's a 4% of something that could be fear, sadness, resentment, anxiety, worry, anger, anything. Let me know.
I would say it's like a 4% anxiety sort of feeling.
Nice.
Mhm.
And so here's the next question. Where does the energy of that anxiety live in your body? Where do you feel it?
It lives in the base of my spine and my left hip.
Oh, so specific. Well done.
Mhm.
Okay. So what we're going to do right now is just bring patient, compassionate attention to that energy at the base of your spine and your left hip.
Okay.
So I recommend closing your eyes. I just want you to bring your awareness to that energy with love and patience. Like you're just sitting with a child who's upset, holding space for it. And maybe it wants a hug, or maybe it just wants you to sit by its side. Or maybe it wants you to wrap it in pink light, whatever you like. Show up to that energy and just be present with it. And do that until your mind wanders, until you get bored. Once your mind wanders or you get a little bored, let me know.
My mind just went completely still. I don't know if that's what I need to tell you, but
Yeah, sounds good. Does that 4% anxiety, does it feel lighter or more dissipated?
yeah, the sensation has left the body.
Exactly. Yeah, your
Mm.
work is done. So you just performed a little healing on yourself, a little integration. And I don't know what experience it was that gave you that 4% anxiety in the past, and you don't need to know. Um, it might come back up, but it will be less. And it's like layers of an onion. They can come back up depending on how big they are, how many times they come back, but every time you'll get less and less triggered. So as you keep healing those triggers and wounds with the compassionate attention, I'll say this real quick. The one thing that messes people up with this is they do it with the intention of resolving or pushing the feeling away or changing.
Mm.
That screws it up. Are you good with me cursing, by the way?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Fully, fully open to
I was gonna say that fucks it up. So we'll see. Um,
that.
and so, think about it. Imagine your partner comes to you and you're upset and they're trying to help, but in a way of like, okay, can you move on with the sadness? And when you feel that energy in them, it's just like, fuck off, get out of here. And the wounds and triggers in our body pick it up just the same. So you want to show up to it with complete patience, holding space for it as long as it needs. And look how quickly it passed for you. 20 seconds, you know? So that's the one thing I consistently see where people get messed up, where it's like not working. But you did it. You did it perfectly, obviously, and it passed. And so that process, I probably am doing it 30 or 40 times a day now. Just
For
while I'm,
yourself.
yeah, with myself.
Yeah.
While I'm working, whatever's going on, and I'm just like, oh, there's something that doesn't feel like a feeling of love. It's got to be a feeling of love, by the way. It's not like I'm yelling at you because I love you. No. Do I feel love right now as I talk to you? That's what matters. Um,
Yes.
and so wherever it's not quite love, it's compassionate attention, and as you heal it, you basically enter the kingdom of cherishing.
Hmm.
Watch this quote. Greg Boyle, he's got a quote. He says, "How can I regard this person with awe for the burden that they carry, as opposed to judgment for how they carry it?"
Mm.
My ex, I know her wounds. I know where she comes from. She was yelling at me. We're not together, but I helped take care of her kids because I got so connected to the kids, the stepdad, even though we're not together. Her son calls me Dada, and her daughter, who's 13, she jokes that I'm a father figure to her, and then I joke that she's a daughter figure to me. And she was yelling at me a couple weeks ago for not stepping in and like getting mad at the daughter with her. I didn't like how she was talking to the daughter. Um,
Mm.
and in the past, this just would have led to a huge fight. We've had that fight about 2,000 times. And I just remembered the Greg Boyle quote. How do I regard this woman with awe for the burden that she carries? Man, I know the burden she carries. She carries a heavier, harder burden than almost anyone I know. And man, is she doing amazing with her life. And I need to go tell her that. And and I just felt so much love in my heart for her while she yelled at me for not getting mad at
Yeah.
the daughter with her. And because man, do I have awe for the burden she carries. And man, have I spent my whole time with her so far judging her for how she carries it, which is bullshit. And I just felt so much love in my heart for her. And I walked past her and I walked out the door. I didn't take any of the bait to get in the argument. I let the daughter know I was leaving and that I love her. Sorry about this. Daughter was totally understanding. And even those two are starting to get along so well now. It's like changing the whole vibe in the house. It's phenomenal.
And you just introduced a different frequency to her
Thank you.
than she was sending out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's of cherishing,
Hmm.
cherishing. Why am I not cherishing this moment? Where am I not cherishing this experience? Where am I not cherishing this person? And it's like, oh, there's all my triggers. Let me go heal them. It's
I've
phenomenal.
I've been I've been learning that as I've been
Really?
healing. Yes.
You want to say more?
I'm sorry.
Hmm. Tell me more.
Oh, yes. It's very intriguing actually to witness it in other people and
Hmm.
especially family members.
Hmm.
Uh, I This weekend actually my parents were out of town and my grandmother has round the clock care
Yeah.
and
Wow.
her caregivers didn't show up. So, I had to get up in the middle of the night and help her and she's
Wow.
bedridden. So I had to get
Yeah.
up and take care of her.
Mm.
And she's like nervously having a conversation with me and asking me about things and I'm like grandma, I'm really tired. And I was like, I love you so much.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, I'm just here, we're gonna change you and we're gonna go back to bed. And
Uh-huh.
I just like held this space of love for her and she kind of
Wow.
started to calm down and she like stopped like wanting to talk through the situation and all the things. And I was just like, I'm just here for you, I'm here for you and I love you. And you don't need to feel, like I didn't say these things, but I held that space for it. It's like you don't need to
Okay.
feel bad. I'm up
Right.
taking care of you. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
But that was all coming out in her
Oh.
expressions. And I just recognized in that moment, I was like, she just needs to be loved and cherished in this
Hmm.
moment.
Totally.
And it went so
Wow.
smoothly. And the next morning, we had some amazing conversations, and she was laughing and
Oh my God.
just in such a good space.
Ah, yes. I mean, my God, Sam, even before you told me that story, I was like, man, this grandma has the best granddaughter ever for this role. Um, and that's what's happening. Like the two kids, so Aiden is 6, Mila's 13, and I drive them to and from school every day. Um, and they are doing so well. Like the vibe they're both carrying is phenomenal. I think like everybody at school is so delighted by each of them. Um, and and I think it's this vibe of cherishing that I've been able to start to discover and bring into the space. And when I was started to learn it only like 2 months ago, I started just realizing how I wasn't getting triggered by my ex the way I used to. And I told her, I was like, this things are gonna be different now. We're not going back to the way we used to be, where we used to fight every conversation. And I don't think she believed me at first, but I think she's starting to see it now. And it's like, and at first, the kids started testing me. It was almost like subconsciously they were picking up this new vibe of safety. And it was like, oh, things are safe now. We'll see about that. And it's like, and I was put through those tests and I took a couple shots to the face and I wasn't so Jesus after all in some of them. But I can pick up now so quickly. Where was I not coming from a feeling of love? And anywhere, in any moment where I was not coming from a feeling of love, I have something to apologize for. Any moment I am not coming from a feeling of love, I am hurting the people around me. And it doesn't matter how right in the argument I am, it doesn't matter. I go back and apologize to them. So when I screw up, I apologize so fast now. And even though they gave me these even bigger, harder tests than before, and I screwed up some of them, I can just own it and apologize. And man, those kids, like I get on the phone with my ex now. Her name's Ariana. And both of us are just like in awe at how good these kids are right now. What a good space they're in.
Mm,
My goodness.
so beautiful. So I see that your approach is really impacting so many lives and so many amazing people, families, and that in turn spreads that vibration, raises the vibration of, people in the entire earth, and it's so incredible. I'm
Wow.
curious what your next big aspiration in your journey of conscious transformation.
Ah, Jamie, how do you know all the best questions to ask?
I have a little list and I
All the ones,
choose necessary.
all the ones I'm scared to answer, so you know they're the right ones. Um, okay. So what's coming to me now? I'm about to publish my first book on test anxiety and performance anxiety. It's another thing I help people with in 1 or 2 Zooms, whether it's a kid blanking out on a test or athletes or musicians who have like they're playing at a really high level and the stress is starting to get to them and they're not showing up with all their abilities. So it's another thing I specialize in. Um, so that book is going to come out. I hope it leads to lots of speaking opportunities on stage, different schools, different groups of students, whether it's med school, LSAT, physical therapist tests. I mean, I think there's a lot of students out there struggling with test anxiety. And there's a podcast that's coming to me. The name of it is the Smaller Penis Podcast. I also came to me yesterday. Maybe I was going to call it Big Enough, and the sub headline was going to be
Big
That's What She
enough.
Said. Um, I've had this massive, ridiculous shame issue, obviously, around the size of my genitals for most of my life, and I yearn for freedom from it, and I suspect I'm not the only one out there who has it. I think it obviously reverberates out to all types of body shame.
Yeah.
And, I'll run into something among women. I'll hear women disparage a guy about having small dick energy or whatever. And I'm just in shock. I'm like, why do you ladies think it's okay to body shame guys about the size of their dick? Like, are you joking? Would you accept that for a second? Someone making fun of a woman's boobs or whatever that way? Not a chance. It just blows my mind that happens. And I have a, so what I see myself going to Burning Man. Have you been to Burning Man yet?
No,
If you
I've
want to come,
never been to the
if you want
festivals.
the festivals, right? I hadn't either. I went to Burning Man last summer for the first time. If you want to come with me, let me know. So
Absolutely.
I it was a absolute bucket list experience. But I showed up there and I saw this naked dude walking around the first day. I'm like, oh, okay, okay. And by the end of my time at Burning Man, like 11 days or whatever, I did a couple long solo jaunts around Burning Man totally naked.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you. And I was feeling it coming. I was like, oh God, I'm being called to do this. Oh, no, I don't want to have to do this. Um, so anyway, I see myself going back to Burning Man this year and doing like a podcast conversation per day. And I'll walk up to people in all my nudity and ask them if they want to be on the Smaller Penis podcast. Um, I like this title a lot, by the way, because it's not the Small Penis podcast. It's not the smallest. It's the smaller.
Yes,
Smaller than what? Like,
exactly. And
right? That's like,
who's to say what is ideal, you know?
right? Totally. And I just, I don't know. I guess part of me feels like my path in life is to go where the other men are afraid to go and to show them it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, I run a tutoring company for kids. Like, I don't know if I might have to sell that baby. I don't know if you can have the Smaller Penis podcast and run a tutoring company for kids. Um, Meanwhile, another thing that comes to me is to make the best online sex ed class in the world. That's definitely part of my path. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen tomorrow, but in a year or two, I'll be making it. Um, that's the soonest timeline that's ever come out of my mouth around that. Um, I've done a lot of ayahuasca, probably, I don't know, 110, 120 times. Um, and something that started coming to me in my ayahuasca journeys, starting about a year and a half ago, was that I was going to become a dancer in gay clubs. And like, I was going to have a following.
Okay.
And I've discovered my movement on ayahuasca. And the way my body wants to move to music is like so fluttery and resonant. And it's all these movements that younger, homophobically conditioned me just thought were way too feminine. Like, we are not allowed to do that. I am busy trying to be a straight guy who is an athlete, like 100%. Um, and so I just kept discovering that the gayer I let myself be, the straighter I became, the stronger my magnet to women.
Yeah.
Like, what? I went back and forth on that journey over and over and over. And so finally, a buddy of mine who's bisexual, he reached out to me a month and a half ago. He's like, dude, you should come to this party. And it was in San Diego. And I thought I was gonna, and it was a gay leather bear party. I didn't know what any of those words meant. Do you know what a bear is?
No.
It's a big, hairy dude
Oh.
who's gay. Leather, I didn't know what that meant.
And
Apparently, you wear leather, all kinds of creative leather underwear going on and lack of underwear. And, I show up. It's a place called the Rail. It's the oldest gay bar in California. Been there over 100 years. And I showed up in my stupid straight guy clothes. Um, Before I got in the car, I'm bringing all this compassionate attention to my triggers like we did, a half hour ago.
yeah.
Just to get out of the car, I'm doing all this trigger work again. Finally, I get out. I go into the bar. I'm standing there and I see my friend. I used to get so uncomfortable talking to gay guys. The femininity in their eyes terrified me because I'm attracted to it. I was like, oh, what could happen? It used to really scare
Yeah.
me. How are we doing on time, by the way?
We are getting close, but
Okay.
I'm monitoring.
Okay, cool.
And it's okay
Um,
if we go over a little bit. I don't have a
cool. I don't know why I was called to ask that, but I get to the bar, I see him, we're standing there, and I just feel so much peace. All these gay, naked leather dudes walking around. Bears, and I don't even know what bears are yet. Uh, this chubby guy gets up with a mask on and starts dancing, and he's amazing, super sexual. I loved his dancing. And I'm standing there, and I was just so impressed how much peace I felt in that bar. And then, and I'm just there to like see what it's like at a gay bar. Would I want to dance at this place? Is it similar to what I feel at ayahuasca ceremonies where I dance like crazy and it's the most fun thing ever? Is there enough heart and love in this room? Because that's what I experienced at those ceremonies, and that really fuels all the dancing. One of my past lives, by the way, that comes to me is that I was like a Moroccan belly dancer, a woman, like in 1900 or whatever, like in a, Moroccan bazaar or whatever. Um, like my body moves to every little rhythm in the song. And then one of his friends goes to me, he's like, "You should take your shirt off." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." So I take off my shirt, I start to fit in a little more. And then I'm standing in a circle with these guys and they're kind of talking about me and with my buddy there, and they're like, "He's straight." I'm like, "I think so." And this guy with the softest, kindest, tender, gay eyes, he looks at me, he goes, "We see you."
Aw.
So tender. And I used to doubt and question my sexuality so much in the past. Um, didn't matter that, I got 10,000 hours of pornography under my belt and it's all women. I'm still like, but I don't know. What if I'm repressed? And so I felt really sweet. And then they go, "There's short one go-go dancer tonight." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Holy fuck, it's gonna happen tonight." Oh my God. I thought I was just coming to see this, to scope out the scene, feel into it. Now I'm gonna do it. I know I won't turn it down. I'm supposed to do it. So I end up in the back room behind the bar, and the other dancers are in there. And they give me a choice of three jock straps to change into. There's the rainbow one. And right when that one comes out, the one woman in the whole place was like, "Woo!" Big white one looked like they just nabbed it from the varsity football team or something. And this orange one. I was like, "All right, clear, it's supposed to be the rainbow one." And the owner, he goes to me, he's like, "Just have fun up there." And in my mind, I'm like, "You don't have to tell me." And I go out there, dance, super fun. It's not quite, my most in flow performance, but it's close, not bad. It'll work. And I suppose. And so, my buddy's friends are coming up and like putting dollar bills or whatever in my jock strap. No one else was. I ended up making $9 in tips. And apparently that's not much. But I think like my energy that I was giving off was not necessarily like, "Yeah, strange dudes, come and put your hands in my jock strap." Um, wasn't giving that energy off. And so I loved it. I go down and the stages are empty. I'm like, "Should I go back up? Like, I want to do it again." I'm like, "No, no, like, I'll trust. If I'm supposed to be up there, will unfold organically." The owner comes back to me. It's like, "You want to go up again?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I do it again. I come down from the bar. The whole thing is sober. All I drank was soda waters that night. I don't drink anymore. Um, I've just been getting so sober. And this guy at the bar, he's like, calls me over. He's like, "I just have to tell you." He's like, "You have one of the nicest asses I've ever seen." I was like, "Whoa, wow, thank you. That's so flattering." I found my buddy and I can feel it's done. It's time to go home. And I drive home that night with so much peace and pride and love in my heart. I felt so complete.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can only imagine. I've done so many things that are so far off the crazy deep end that my family like can barely even reconcile with. This one I haven't told them yet. I kind of look forward to the day when this bubbles up and I will tell them. And it's so far outside the box of all the family conditioning we started talking about at the start of this call.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's part of the beauty in it though, is it's a lot of the beauty and pride, the
Mm,
idea of pride in the Pride Festival, which I've always participated in with my friends.
mm,
And I support that. I don't, I'm not necessarily, I'm straight, but I'm a supporter.
yeah,
And I think it's so beautiful that everyone is so accepting of however you are and
yeah,
however you show up. And there's a big stigma around it
mm,
that there's something else there that it's like not good or something, but it's actually truly
mm.
giving people the space to be themselves.
You
And
know,
that community is so supportive and
mm.
just like you said, complimenting you and really accentuating like you are beautiful. Every
Oh,
being is so beautiful
right.
in the body that they were given.
God,
And
totally.
that's something that came up to me in college. I remember
Uh-huh.
I went to this little pop-up thing that they had at the student center, and we were looking in mirrors, and they were talking about how like looking in the mirror can be so deadly because you judge yourself.
Right.
And
Sympathetic
from that
nervous system,
day,
boys.
yes, from that day on, I promised myself, because I was studying psychology at the time, and I
Yeah,
was like working on reprogramming my brain
yeah.
subconsciously. And
Wow.
uh, I promised myself from that day on, every time I look at someone and I recognize judgment coming up, I'm just gonna recognize what I love in that person.
Oh, you're good.
And I started seeing the beauty in every
Mm,
type of person, every
my
body, every
gosh.
personality type, because it's there.
Right. Of
We're
course it is.
for a reason.
Divine. Divine. It's so good for me to hear you say that. You just took me to new levels.
Well, happy to share that with you. We are getting close on time, so
Uh-huh.
uh, do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom for our listeners today, and how can they follow your work, connect with you? I will add links to the description, of course, but you can briefly mention that.
Yeah. I maybe Sammy, you might like this question. You might like carry it around too. I like to ask people a question. Do you know how special you are?
Oh, uh, I think I'm learning new bits every single day,
Yeah.
but I really do. I recognize that there is so much I'm still uncovering that's super duper special about me.
So Sammy, try this out. Maybe this could actually be a cool podcast episode. Go around to different people and just ask them that question. Their answer to that question, to me, reflects where they are on their path of healing, like more accurately than any other question.
Oh,
It's phenomenal. And let's just take a moment. We'll ask you listeners, do you know how special you are?
you really take a moment to reflect on it and
Yeah.
drop it in the comments below.
Ooh, you know, um, and it's funny sometimes when I remember I asked this barista at the cafe. This was my daughter. I asked her. I think this girl thought I was trying to hit on her. She got really uncomfortable. And then, but since I've seen her since, I think she like probably reflected on it and realized I was not hitting on her. 'Cause she actually responds to me with really lovely energy now, even though it really caught her off guard when I first asked her. Um, and you know what? Wisdom, I would say what comes to me is it's just that question. Am I feeling anything in this moment that doesn't feel like love? And whatever comes up there, see if you can close your eyes, see if you can stop what you're doing for a second, even if you're at work, and just bring compassion, find the energy of that feeling in your body. Bring it patient, compassionate attention until your mind wanders and you get bored. And just notice how much lighter you feel and that you just did a little healing. And the teacher I learned that from, guy Greg Paul, he says 3 years of that practice, just staying with it. Takes about 3 years to become totally untriggerable. I'm about 3 months into it, and man, I can see it. I have already come so far with that. I can only imagine 3 years. So I taught it to my daughter. my ex's daughter technically, but I just call her my daughter for simplicity. And she's only 13. She's the smartest, prettiest, most popular and charismatic girl in her school, I'm gonna say. The kids are mean to each other at school.
Yeah.
She's learning how to feel her feelings, and I can see it on her face because her face gets so light and luminous. She'll get in the car, I say, Mila, you've been feeling your feelings. She smiles. She's like, yeah. And she goes, so 3 years from now, I'll be 16. She goes, so you'll be 43. She goes, that's old. And, my son's kindergarten teacher, she radiates so much love. I can't talk to her without crying because it touches my heart so much that my son is in the presence of a woman with so much love each day. And she said to me, she said, this boy has the most phenomenal emotional vocabulary and self-awareness of any student I've taught in 30 years. And she says, it's because of you. Somehow she feels she knows that. And I'm just like, oh my God. Um, so that process of just learning to bring compassionate, patient, cherishing attention to each trigger. My experience, that is more powerful than any ayahuasca or Tony Robbins or Joe Dispenza, whatever healing modality you want. They all are only as effective as they're actually guiding you to bring compassion to the parts inside that didn't receive compassion before. And as you step down that path, that's the path of the Holy Spirit. That's what Jesus and Lao Tzu and all the enlightened ones are actually talking about. And it's infinite. It keeps opening up at an exponential level of more love, more power, more brilliance. It just starts with compassion, which probably is what Christ consciousness actually is at its core.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. How
Um,
blessed are we to be having this
yes.
conversation?
That brings up
Oh.
Pod My Home and so many more deeper topics, but we are at
Out of
our
time.
time limit, and I can't go too much deeper with that, but I
Yeah.
definitely relate, and I really appreciate you sharing all of your nuggets of wisdom today, all of your authentic insight, your true stories of your life. And thank you for just being so open and raw today. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to exploring your podcast
Like that.
as it pops up.
Oh yeah.
I believe
Good
it's
verb, by the way.
I'd love to join.
Yeah. Oh, so fun.
Yes,
You know what? I
absolutely.
haven't had a guest lined up yet, so that's amazing. Then
I
maybe
would
maybe you'll
be
have to come to Burning Man.
honored.
What'd you say?
I said I would be honored.
Ah, maybe you'll come to Burning Man and then you could be my first guest. Oof.
Absolutely.
I got to figure out the tech and the gear, so I'm sure you could help me with that.
I'd be happy to. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. You've
Thank
been
you so
such a
much.
gift today,
Oh,
and I look forward to many more conversations. And
let's do it.
so as I close, one thing that I like to do is really deeply connect with each other, with all of the guests here.
Mm,
I'm just gonna have you close your eyes, return to that breath,
mm,
and really let your breath elongate, just recognizing the inhales and exhales starting to lengthen, and let your breath find a natural rhythm. Bring your gaze up between your eyebrows with your eyes closed.
mm,
Recognizing the peace, the stillness, the light that we all share. And as you're ready, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, gently open your eyes with a big, big smile on your face. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in each one of you. Thank you
Mm,
so much for listening today. Thank you
thank
for
you.
being a guest. It's been such a pleasure. And we'll
Mm,
meet again.
awesome. Thanks, Sammy.
You're welcome.